Hello there, how are you? I have a very exciting announcement to make today. Many of you know that I've really got into hand making my own watercolor paints in the last few months, and I know you've been interested in trying out my paints yourself, and today I can finally offer them for purchase for you. For my very first launch of handmade watercolors, I am releasing 10 gorgeous special colors. I have hand molded and made everything by hand over the last few months, and they have turned out so lovely. I use a binder from Schmincke, which means it has proper preservatives in them. I added a few other things to it, one of which is a Scottish heather honey. It's a very special honey, and I was really keen to put something Scottish in the paints as part of the beautiful country I live in, and this honey is so nice. Honey helps with the re-wettability of the paints, so you can expect the paints to be even more easy to re-wet than Schmincke's paints. Each paint comes wrapped like little sweets. At room temperature, some of them have a tendency to stick to the wrapping just because of the honey helping to keep it moist. So a pro tip with these paints, and basically any other paints that you might have that has honey in it, is before removing the paper, pop these paints in the freezer, set a timer for 5 minutes, and when the time is up, take them out and the wrapper will come off very cleanly. Now let's take a closer look at each of the colors. First is buff titanium, and it is made out of pigment PW6:1. I love buff titanium. I love using the one from Daniel Smith, so it was really nice to be able to make my own. It is a very opaque color, non-granulating, and 8 out of 8 in terms of light fastness. And I just love the colors you get from mixing buff titanium with these various colors. Now for the color mixes, I am using the same colors that I use for the Daniel Smith Color Showdown Season 2. Now I just love the soft hues that you get from mixing buff titanium with these colors. And so I would say it is a good mother color to use when you want to create a nice soft palette. Next we have nickel titanium yellow, or you might know it as nickel titanate yellow. It is made out of the pigment PY53. It is again an opaque color, non-granulating, and it scores 8 out of 8 for light fastness. It is a lovely soft cool yellow, and it mixes beautifully with all the yellows and oranges, and also the blues and greens. It disperses quite well as well. I do feel that this is a very unique yellow, and I'm proud to be bringing it to you as a handmade watercolor. Next up is Hansa Yellow Medium, and it is made out of PY74. It is somewhere between semi-opaque and semi-transparent. It's non-granulating and scores 8 out of 8 for light fastness. It is a good middle yellow to go for. If you're looking for just one yellow, then I recommend a Hansa Yellow Medium. It mixes really well with the yellows and oranges and the blues and greens, and it moves really fast and far in the dispersion. So if you want a really nice lively yellow that is really active on the paper, then I highly recommend Hansa Yellow Medium. Next up is Venetian Red, and it is made out of PR101. Now this is a very opaque color, and I love it so much because it feels so rich. It's a non-granulating color, and again scores 8 out of 8 for light fastness. The interesting thing about this PR101 is that it can be very, very opaque if you use the mass tone, but also it does become very transparent as you water it down, and it has such an intensely insane tinting level that you can easily dilute it until it's transparent and still get a lot of color out of it. It is a gorgeous mixing color, especially round from the reds, the pinks, the violets, blues and greens. It makes this really, really nice, rich jewel tone, almost like winter spiced colors. I am so in love with this color, and I'm so glad to be able to bring this paint to you. Next up, I have Ultramarine Violet Pink. Now, you have seen me mold this in the live stream, which I will link to the top right hand corner. It is gorgeous, gorgeous color. I just love it so much. It is made out of PR259. It is semi-transparent, granulating, and scores 8 out of 8 for light fastness. It has this really nice soft hue, and I just love all the pinks and purples and blues that it can create by mixing with all the colors. The only color I wouldn't recommend mixing with really for making pretty colors is the yellows and the yellow greens, but other than that, it mixes and creates such beautiful hues with almost any color. Next up is Manganese Violet. Now, I often tend to find Manganese Violet quite lacking in tinting, so I was really keen to make a easily rewettable strong Manganese Violet, and I'm very happy with the result. As you can see, it's a strong violet and it is very granulating. It is made out of PV15. It's semi-opaque, granulating, and scores 8 out of 8 for light fastness. And I just love all the pinks and violets that it makes, but also the dual tone you get by mixing the phthalo turquoise or the viridian hue, where you can see the violet granulation through the green colors of the colors you mix with. Now, I am so proud of this ultramarine blue. I worked so hard to get the right ultramarine blue. I tried every single ultramarine blue that I could get my hands on and tried all sorts of different mixes to get my ideal ultramarine blue. And what I was looking for was a very good, strong ultramarine blue, one that can really glow and stand on its own against all the other bright colors that I tend to have on my palette. And I'm very happy with the result of what I've achieved. It was definitely hard work, but totally worth it, because ultramarine blue, many of you know, was the first color that really got me into making watercolor, because I had very specific requirements for my ultramarine blue. And so I'm so glad to now have ultramarine blue that I'm very happy with. All the other 9 colors does have ox gold in them to help them move and be more lively on the paper. However, ultramarine blue is the one color that I decided not to put any ox gold in, and that is simply because if I put ox gold in ultramarine blue, it spreads so much, and that basically means the resultant shade you get is spread out, thinned out, so you don't get that really intense ultramarine blue experience, and that intense experience was what I was looking for. So there is no ox gold in this, and this is the only color that doesn't have ox gold in. But as you can see, it is very, very intense and bright. It is made out of PB29. It's semi-transparent. It's very granulating. If you want a granulating color, then this is the best one for you. And it scores 8 out of 8 for light fastness, and of course it doesn't disperse at all, because that's how I designed the color to be. Next up is Zirconium Cerulean, and you saw my video last week on mulling this color. The video is actually of mulling this badge, and as I explained in that video, it is a safer alternative to the normally toxic Cerulean. It is made out of PB71. It's opaque, it's very granulating, and scores 8 out of 8 for light fastness. And I will also leave a link down below for the focus video that Shade from Sadie Saves the Day did on this color, because she gives a really good description of what this color is, and also do a thorough test on how it compares with the real Cerulean. It's a lovely light blue. I wouldn't call this necessarily a good mixing color because it's so heavily granulating, but on its own I think it is ideal for painting skies with. Next up is Malachite. Now, a little bit of disclaimer, this is made with synthetic malachite, and basically what that means, it's not a hue, because hue is made out of different blends of pigments to recreate the same color. However, the synthetic malachite means it is a human-made malachite, but it is chemically the same thing. I tested several malachites, and I tested the synthetic with the natural versions, and the problem I had with the natural version of malachite was that there was very little color payoff. You only get very slight tints, whereas I wanted the color but a little bit more intense, and the synthetic malachite did a really good job of copying the same characteristics, of course, because it's chemically the same thing, but you do get more color payoff from the synthetic malachite. So I decided to use the synthetic malachite over the natural made malachite. My philosophy behind that is it's nice to use natural pigments. However, if you're not going to get any color out of them, then there's no point in having a watercolor with them. And I hope you guys agree with that too. As you can see, it is a gorgeous mixing color. It makes the most loveliest soft palette. It is slightly granulating, but not as much as, say, the Manganese Violet or the Ultramarine Blue. And it has these tiny specks of darker green that just really nice, adds really nice texture to the colors. It mixes beautifully with the pinks, violets and blues and greens. It is an opaque color, lightly granulating, and scores 8 out of 8 for light fastness. And finally, we have Verona Green Earth. It is made out of the pigment PG23, and I decided to go with Verona Green Earth in the end after testing out several different green earths because it had the best color payoff. It is a semi-transparent color, granulating, and 8 out of 8 for light fastness. This is a lovely green earth. A lot of green earth colors tend to not have much of a color to them. It has very weak tinting strength, whereas I like this one because it is much stronger than what you normally get. It is a lovely olive sagey green color, and it mixes very well with other colors as well to create a slightly muted palette, which is really nice. All 10 colors have honey in them, and as I said, with the exception of the ultramarine blue, all colors have ox gall in them, so unfortunately these colors won't be vegan friendly. And I am so sorry about that. I will in the future try to make something that is more suitable for vegans as well. All 10 colors are now on sale in my shop, otokano.com. Numbers are limited, so please do grab them while they are still available. And finally, I just wanted to take this moment to say a huge big thank you to Eve from the YouTube channel Eve Bolt. You all know she means so much to me, but especially on this day of my launch of my handmade watercolors, because she taught me everything I know about paint making. Without her and her videos on paint making, I would have been so lost and would have never managed to make good quality paints that I am proud of. So thank you so much for all the resources you provide and all the chats we've had over the months on how to improve the quality of the watercolor paints. Thank you, Eve. Okay, that's it for today. I am so looking forward to seeing you over on my shop at otokano.com, and I will see you in the next video.